What's going on, you guys? It's your boy Jake. We going live today because I'm going to talk about that property that I'm accidentally buying and the process behind it, what I'm going to do, what's stopping me from closing on that deal. So why don't you guys jump on in? I've got a microphone set up here. I'm going to do Facebook and Instagram. But yeah, you guys, welcome. Hey, today we're going to talk about how I am accidentally, right? This is a process that, I initially had the intent to buy, but I tried to back out and they made the deal sweeter than I thought they would make it. And so I'm buying it accidentally. Well, we're trying to buy it accidentally. I'm going to show you how that process works, talk about decisions and how we put ourselves in the best possible position to succeed. Can you guys hear me okay? We're in a different spot in the office. It's a little echoing here. It's like an old dome. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me all right. If you don't mind. And I know that sometimes it, okay, yeah, you guys can hear me fine. And so give me a second here. Let me get, Facebook on too. What's going on, you guys, by the way? I'm digging this Instagram thing. I haven't been on Instagram for very long where I'm actually being intentional with it, teaching with it and stuff like that, but I like it. We got some good interaction. I like the interface. Yeah, a lot of you guys and girls have reached out to me. We've had some good discussions and some back and forth about, house flipping in general. And so I have been enjoying it. Hopefully you guys have been enjoying this as well. Give me 1 second. Let's get Facebook on. We'll get this thing cracking here. All right, go live. Let's see. 3, 2, 1. All right, here we go. Instagram, hello. Facebook, hello. So today we're going to be talking about how I'm accidentally buying this property or trying to finish buying this property, how everything came about, and just, give you a little bit more about my background. So come on in, you guys, on the Facebook side, on the Instagram side. I'm 18-year-old, want to start investing in housing. Where do I start? Look, you got to get a mentor or a system. There's so much out there when it comes to real estate. Like, the beauty of real estate, and by the way, Facebook, I'm answering a question real quick, but the beauty of real estate is that you can do so many things. There's so many different angles, right? You can, if I buy a house, as long as I buy a house correctly, I can fix it up and flip it, which I tend to do. It's a really good paycheck. It's what I do really, really well. I can fix it up and then lease it to somebody. I can fix it up and rent it to someone. I can fix it up and refinance it and hold it for a long time. I mean, there's so many different angles that you can go when it comes to real estate investing. But when you're brand new, having all those different angles and all those different things that you can do with a house, or so many different ways to approach a house, whether it's cash flowing it or flipping it for a fat profit or whatever it is, or anywhere in between. There's probably 10 different directions you can go. So because of that, if you just go to real estate investing, if you just look on YouTube or Google or whatever it is, if you go to that, it's super easy to become overwhelmed, right? You can be like, oh, well, Grant Cardone says never flip a house. Jake says he loves flipping houses. He doesn't do it. Well, this guy says you should only wholesale, and this guy says you should only do lease options, and you're crazy. You could have a lot of us all making money with real estate, all of us throwing stones at each other, telling them that the other person's strategy is wrong, and every one of us will be correct because, it all depends on what you're trying to do. If you're trying to stack a bunch of cash, if you're trying to build wealth and collect assets with real estate. So there's a lot of different directions you could go. So when you're first starting and you're trying to get into it, I'll say have a single mentor. I love the mentor thing. I am a mentor. I have mentors. That's how I started in this business. That's how I came up from nothing. But also, let's say you're just going and doing free stuff on YouTube or whatever it is, which you can do that, right? Just make sure you don't, just always try to fight the urge of going in every single direction that you go in that rabbit hole, which is YouTube, because you'll get overwhelmed and there'll be conflicting information. Just have one strategy, right? Whether it's through a mentor or if you're, a self-solver or you're learning by yourself, whatever it is, go with one strategy, master that strategy before you loop anything else into it. And I hope that answers your question, but we're going to talk about something else because I flip houses, right? I do sometimes wholesale. I teach my mentorship group how to wholesale, but our primary objective when you're watching what I'm doing, at least right now, is buying the house to renovate it and flip it based on what that specific neighborhood is doing. And, I've done over 800 flips. A lot of them were purchased in bulk a few years ago. I do a lot of them one at a time. I probably do about 30 to 40 every year, one at a time. I do it very part-time though. I get to pick and choose the flips I want to do. And you're welcome. You're welcome. I get to pick and choose the flips I want to do. And if I put something under contract and things don't work out, I always have the option to wholesale it, which means I can sell the rights to that contract to buy the house to somebody else and make a couple of bucks. Now, I don't do that too often. Usually, I put it under contract. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, I back away. Another cool thing is when you're, with my strategy, my intent for all purposes, just to make this clear, my intent is to buy it, renovate it, and sell it for top dollar with me putting minimal time into it as far as doing the busy work. I'm doing what I do best, which is managing the flip, and I put people in place to do their part correctly. Everybody gets paid, wash, rinse, repeat, right? I run it like a business. It's a side business, but it's still a business. I take very good pride in my business. And what's up, you guys over there on the Facebook land? If you can hear me, I do have this microphone plugged in over here, so give me a thumbs up. What's up, LaForge? I haven't talked to you in a little while. This will actually be very relevant to what you're doing up there in NorCal. So, do you have mentees in Chicago? Yes, I mentor people in Chicago. I used to be on the seminar circuit. I used to travel all over the country. I was an advanced coach for one of the big time seminar people out there. But I have a couple young kids, and I realized I didn't like flying around the country. I mean, it's kind of fun, but it gets a little bit tiring. And this whole Instagram and Facebook and social media, the platforms that are available, and just technology growing in general and becoming more powerful has allowed me to do this remotely, right? I can teach the same strategy everywhere. I bought and sold everywhere, so I could teach. I mean, it's the same strategy. It's, you just have to adapt to the market, adapt your personality to who you're talking to, and just make sure you pick the right people on your team. It's not rocket science, but it does involve you getting out there, putting yourself out there, and getting outside your comfort zone, which is a very scary thing. That's why it is difficult. So anyway, when I first started, I had no money. I told you that story a couple days ago. I taught you how to do it and structure it with no money, at least on paper, right? Also, when I first started, I had no experience, terrible at construction, still am. The only thing I really have going for me is I'm a Dodger fan, baby. I didn't have any money. I didn't have a real estate license. I wasn't good at construction, but what I did have was I was willing to get out there and try to go after my dreams, right? And so I started, and I was out there working harder than everyone. I did a few flips over that first year, and then I talked about yesterday how I had a couple of people passed away in my family, and that really forced me to change the way I was doing things, right? And so like every single big thing that's happened, every big challenge on my personal journey has made me alter what I do, which is the reason I'm here today, right? The reason I'm in front of you, reason I'm in front of you, right? I've gone through a lot of things and I've been able to push through them. And so I think that flipping houses, and I tell the mentorship group this all the time, flipping houses, it's not about the numbers, right? Although numbers are important. It's not about the construction job, although that's important too. The biggest thing, the primary aspect of real estate investing, flipping houses, doing real estate profitably is up here. It's your mindset. It's your ability to make decisions and make them quicker than you're probably comfortable with. What's up, Cynthia? You're really good on camera. So I have one of my clients here, Cynthia. She did a testimonial for me earlier. She's newer in the mentorship group. You did a great job. I know you're nervous doing that, but just keep pushing through. So anyway, so we talk about in that mentorship group quite a bit. It's all about the power to make decisions, right? To having the guts to take all the data that you have, calculate it quickly, and make quick decisions. In real estate investing and flipping houses, at least at first, speed beats perfection all day, right? And so it's just a matter of making that choice, making that decision. Because if I look back on my life, right, I had this failing business. I had a failing plan of action. I was trying to figure out how I was going to foreclose on my house, how I was going to sleep on this couch, how I was going to figure out, deal with, all the embarrassment that came with, losing everything. But I made a decision, right? And it was a very hard decision, but I had to make that decision quick because I had my back against the wall to borrow this money from my girlfriend and go to this seminar that was just speaking to me and get this, it was, for all definitive, right? I'm not the greatest speaker, but for definitive purposes, I bought a coach and I bought that coaching program. And I bought a 4-day seminar for $15,250. And a lot of that went on my girlfriend at the time's credit card because she believed in me. I had no idea what I was doing. I just knew that something was speaking to me with this. I knew that I could do it because I was seeing these other people doing the same thing, right? And they seemed like they were young, they were similar to me. Something just spoke to me about it. And so I pulled the trigger and I made that decision. I had nothing to lose, and I was in a situation that I knew that if I wasn't going to take action, regardless of how much or how little it costed, whatever the investment was, if I didn't take action, I was going to keep getting the same results where I was at. So making that decision, although it was super scary, and it wasn't a perfect decision, right? I had doubts. I had that self-talk that was going on in my head saying, oh, you can't do this. It's not for you. You're fooling yourself, right? I had to push that aside, take the facts in front of me, and move and make decisions. I'm one of those people. I'm not a natural optimist. I have to work very hard every morning on being positive and natural and living my life by design every morning. I'm somebody that gets in my own head quite a bit. And so I understand, for me, I have to push through that, and I have to force myself to be in a position for good things to happen to me and work hard. I have to force, things going well. So anyway, I made that decision, moved forward back then, and it ended up changing my life, right? I did that first flip, talked about it yesterday, fired my clients in the business that was failing, one of the most empowering feelings ever, and just went forward very, very hard, right? Like I pushed forward, and I pushed forward hard. My first flip, right? And I had spent the first month and a half, I made 273 offers before I got my first property accepted. That's a lot, right? We were doing quite a bit. 273 offers. Other people were like, oh, I haven't got one yet. I put in 10 offers. I was like, dude, I put in 10 offers for the first half of the day yesterday, And so I put in all those offers, and I remember when I got that first call that my first flip was accepted, right? And I was so all about it, right? I made all these decisions to put myself there. And I got the call back from the real estate agent, hey, the property in Hemet, California, on Ida Lane, hey, we got it accepted, it's approved, they're ready to go. And I remember just freaking out, right? Everything that I worked for, right? I was pumped up, I was going after it, and then all of a sudden it became real. As if putting 15 grand into a training class, a 4-day training class, wasn't real enough. Again, my mind is playing tricks on me, and I'm like, you know what? Told the real estate agent, oh man, that's great. And my heart sank, I got scared. I felt like everything slowed down. I had this weird Matrix type feeling going on. I was like, it was like it was a bright in the room that I was in, but it seemed like everything dimmed down and got slow, and I could hear my heartbeat, like I could feel it in my head, I could hear it. I was like, it was just, everything slowed down, literally like the Matrix. I was like, hey, you know what, I gotta run, let me call you right back, that's great news. I hung up the phone, it was a cell phone, so I hung up the phone, and something in my head was telling me like, dude, you can't do this. What are you thinking? You're about to buy a house? Like, this is crazy. You don't have the money for it. What all of them are teaching you is a lie. This is a scam. You can't do it. All that shit's on TV. This is an HGTV thing. It's not for you. Blah, 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 right? It's just in my head. I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? What am I doing? And everything's just slow. I feel, I needed some coffee or something. But what I decided to do is I decided to put some workout clothes on and go for a run and put on some music, right? So I started going for a run, pushed myself through that. And probably 10 minutes in, I would say a mile in, right? Give myself credit, round up, I got a mile in. And something told me, I was like, dude, you've been working your ass off, right? Spending a lot of time trying to do this, put everything on the line to do this. Just keep moving forward. Who knows what's gonna happen? Just keep moving forward, right? And so I stopped that run. I took my headphones out. I turned off the music, and I called the realtor. I said, "Hey, sorry about that. Something came up." And I'm like right on the side of a busy street. He was probably tripping out on what's going on. He's a good friend of mine now. I've done business with him quite a bit. But I was like, "Hey, yeah, it's a go. Like, I'm excited. Send me all of the stuff. Send me the next steps. Send me the escrow instructions and all these keywords that I knew I needed to say." And I hung up the phone. I was like, "Dude, I don't know what I'm getting myself into." But right there, I had to force myself to call him and say, just do it. Regardless of how uncomfortable I was, right? Regardless of what was going on, I just had to do it. And I knew I was taking action. I knew I was taking imperfect action, but I was just going to take one step at a time, and hopefully I'll get to my destination. I know where my destination is. I have no idea. I don't know if it's going to be a straight line to get there or if it's going to be a zigzag. I just knew that I had to take one step at a time, right? And so looking back, right, and I know it's 800 something flips. There's a lot of flips I don't remember. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of flips I don't remember on purpose, right, that didn't go well, where I've done some dumb things, let my ego get involved. But if I would have listened to what my mind was telling me, like, you're not ready for this yet, no, you can't do this yet, you shouldn't move forward with this. If I would have listened to that, it would have drastically altered where I'm at today, right? And so I've been doing this teaching thing. I've been doing real estate speaking for a while. Look, I am not polished. I'm not perfect. Although my wife is on here on the Facebook side, I can see you on. You may think I'm perfect, babe, but I'm not perfect. Believe you me. But I try. I put myself out there. I get nervous every time I do a live. I get nervous every time I do a live over here, but I'm doing it because I know that there's a bigger thing for me. There's a bigger thing in mind, and as long as I'm taking action toward it, it distracts me from these little voices in my head. They're telling me, you're not ready, you're not good enough, you're not ready for it, blah, blah, blah. So I'm convinced that this business is all about choices. Everybody that I've been able to meet along the way, I know people that do this at a very high level that have full-time businesses flipping houses, right? A lot of my mentors are doing this 100 flips a year, right? And they have a full team behind it. For me, it's just me, and I automate a lot, I delegate a lot to like contractors, realtors, lenders, and so forth. But everybody that I've met, I feel like none of us know what we're doing really. Like we kind of know what we're doing, but it's like, even if we put ourselves out there and we think something specific is going to happen, we always got to change course anyway. So it's like, we don't know what's going to happen, but as long as we're taking action, we're beating 95% of the people out there that we may potentially be competing with, because there's so many folks that are just scared of the unknown, scared to take that step, right? It's one of the biggest fears ever. We're scared of failure. What are they going to think of me? What are they going to say? I'm going to tell you, once you take action, it's such an empowering feeling. Whether it's in business or relationships or anything out there in health, right? You're scared to go to the gym. Oh, I'm not going to go. I don't feel good yet. Like, oh, I'm not ready yet. It's like, no, just go, and then you'll take a step and you'll be like, oh, I didn't die. That wasn't as bad as I thought it was, right? Literally in my head and my body was responding on that first flip. Like hey, if I go forward with this, like I could die. I felt like that's how I was getting tense like that. It's like crazy how our bodies and our minds work. But you just have to push through that, and I feel like having the guts to just make even small decisions. You want to get out of bed at 5 a.m. and the alarm goes off, you're like, dude, I want to snooze. No, maybe I'll do it next time. Just force yourself through and make that decision to go, because that can alter the direction of an entire day, right? For me, if I wouldn't have gone forward with that flip, it could have altered the direction of where I'm at. I wouldn't be talking to you, talking to the people that I'm blessed enough to be able to serve in this business, right? I get to help a lot of people out. A lot of people get paychecks because of me. A lot of people have consistent work because of me. I mean, it's a fun thing to do. And there's a lot of pressure, right? But pressure creates diamonds, as cliche as that is. So you guys, that's my story here today. But I want to talk about choices that I made on one of these recent flips. And how it equates to me accidentally buying this property that I hope we're going to close on today. We may not. Talk to you about the situation, tell you how I'm going to make decisions today to hopefully affect what's going on in the future. Now, to be real, 100% disclosure, I have no idea what's going to go on with this house, right? I just know that I am making decisions along the way that I have enough data collected where I'm at least making a move and trying to dictate the pace, right? There's always risk in everything. You're never going to have 100% control over anything in your life. And for me, I'm a control freak, and I'm not going to have 100% control. But I know that I'm going to have about 80% control. I'm going to have 80% of the facts. I'm going to make a good decision based on the facts that I've gathered. And I'm just going to hope for the best. And usually it's not as bad as you would think it is, the whole, if you don't hit your goal, right? A lot of times we get anxiety about making decisions or making moves in our lives because we're like, what if I fail? What if this? What if that? What if it's, the ultimate worst case hypothetical scenario? But those hypothetical scenarios literally never happen. Do I have to pay federal taxes in every house that is sold? I am not an accountant. I am not a CPA. I'll tell you, I buy and sell houses in business names, and I also write off a lot of other stuff in my business. But the Federal Trade Commission and the Attorney General would probably not want me, as somebody that's not an attorney and not a tax professional, to be giving legal advice. So I can tell you what I do, which is, yes, I pay federal taxes. I don't pay it on every house specifically. I pay taxes at the end of the year based on, my profits. I'm not going to tell you how I get to my profits, though, because I'm not a professional. So you guys, hopefully you're following me. We're going to get into a property that hopefully I'm closing today. We talked about it a little bit last week. It's the house that I'm accidentally buying. Let's see how much screen we have here. Now, Instagram people over here, you're going to see this backwards. So I'm going to try to save this video and edit it so you can have access to it forward. Now, my Facebook people over here, you will see it forward. Instagram, I'm looking at the screen. As usual, right hand is my left hand, but you see it as my right hand. So everything I'm going to write up here is going to be mirrored. So just bear with me and listen to me and remind other people if I'm up here writing and they're saying, hey dude, you're an idiot, your screen's backward, just remind them. Say, he knows and I can't interact with you guys if I have it going on like that, okay? If I flip it around. If I can't sell the house after remodeled, what happens with the lenders? Well, you can always refinance it. Remember, when a property is remodeled, at that point, it's in good enough condition for some of the lenders and investors that don't necessarily consider it, that it's open for lenders that don't think that flipping a house in bad shape is risky. So what I mean by that is, at first, when you're moving forward with a flip, the lenders that are attracted to those, it's a little bit higher of an interest rate, right? Because there's risk in having a house that's in bad condition, okay? Now, once it's flipped, if you can't sell it, you have the option to refinance it or put a new lender into it, and probably at a lower interest rate because the house is in better condition. It's not considered as much of a risk, all right? So what I like to do, and it doesn't happen too often, but what I like to do if I'm having trouble selling something, or if I go over budget, or if it takes a little bit longer than planned, right, what I'll do is I'll put a lower interest rate lender in it, I'll throw a renter in the house and either break even for like 6 months or a year, or make a couple $100 for 6 months or a year. Then at that point, hopefully the market's appreciated and I can try to sell it at that point. Or I can try to sell it with the renter in it along the way. But doing it like that, you'll be able to not have to pay as much, and sometimes you can get paid a couple $100 while you hold on to it and then sell it when the time is right. So you guys, I know that there's questions, but let me get into this here, okay? So we have this house. I initially offered $170,000. Let's see how much room we got here. So we're good. All right, 170 grand. And again, I know that it's backwards. Just bear with me. Instagram won't let me stream live while looking at the screen and seeing everybody's questions and comments. Unless somebody knows how to fix that, this is what you're dealing with today. Facebook, we're good. So 170 grand, right? This is what I offered on the house. Now with my initial projections, I thought that there would be about $30,000 in repairs, right? In addition to that, there's usually closing costs and holding costs that come into a deal. Usually closing costs is like 1.5% to 2% of the transaction amount. So let's say, I think on this one I thought that it would be about $2,500 to close it, and then $2,500 to hold the deal. And by holding it, I mean like vacant property insurance. We've got property taxes. We've got utilities. Things like that. So about $2 grand, $2,500. So this is what I thought it would cost me to get this house. Okay, so that's a total project cost. If I was putting all the money in myself, which I never do, and some of my lenders are watching this and they also know that, right? Some of my lenders on Instagram that are watching right now are people that fund these deals for me, and they'll put in the whole amount. And some of them on this side are lenders that fund a portion of the deal for me, and I bring in a second position lender to fund the bridge. And everybody's very happy with it because they make great money and they know it's secured by assets that are calculated. The value on them is calculated correctly, doing exactly what I'm doing right here. This is how I teach everybody to do it. This is what my mentorship group does. We spend a lot of time on how to break this down because real estate is numbers. It's not art, right? It's not like, hey, I'm going to put in the best cabinets because I like green and it's got that gold sprinkles in there. No, we're putting stuff in based on the trends in the neighborhood. We're calculating value based on the trends in the neighborhood. And so whatever people could say, hey, Jake, your after picture sucks. You should have done white cabinets. It's like, I agree, white cabinets would have looked better, but that's not what's selling in the neighborhood. I'm flipping based on trends. I'm an investor, not a consumer. Now, my personal house, I'm putting stuff in that I like, right? I don't care what's selling in the neighborhood, but if I'm flipping a house, I'm flipping so I can sell it or have the ability or potential to sell it to the most amount of potential buyers, because as long as I get people in that neighborhood that like the style in that neighborhood in the doors, it's a numbers game. Everything's a numbers game at that point, you guys. So anyway, this is how I first made my offer. They were asking 175. I said 170. In order to flip this whole house, it's 170 grand, 30 grand in rehab, and then 2,500 to close it, 2,500 to hold it. So that's about $205,000, okay? I was also coming in, I would come in with the private lender, and so the way that I calculated it, there would be approximately, I think around 10 or 12 grand in loan fees and interest if I held it for the course of 6 months. So let's say there's another 12 grand in lender's fees, okay? Because I'm not financing it myself. So this would be a total of $217,000 to be in the deal. You guys can see that okay. You guys can see that okay too. All right, now, I made this offer because, and all this stuff, I couldn't even come to these numbers if I didn't know and quickly project what the house was gonna sell for. And based on what I was seeing, it looked like it would be able to sell, let's see, how much room do I have on Instagram, to about right here, the side of the page. So I thought, based on my projections, I was gonna be able to sell this for $260,000. So you guys can see it over here, you guys can see it over here. So I thought that this is what I would sell it for. Now, if I'm selling it for $260,000, and let me mark this up because I got lighting here. If I was gonna sell this for $260,000, and then also put, make sure a real estate agent sells it, because I'm not planning on going on site. I like my weekends with my kids, with my wife. We hang out, we do stuff. We're going to the snow next weekend. It's gonna be fun, right? So I'm gonna pay 5% in real estate commissions because I want them to do that work. They're good at that. I wanna get the best real estate agent to do that. So automatically off the top, that's 5% is taken from that $260,000, so 13 grand less. And then there's also closing costs on that side, which are about, I would say about 3,000 bucks that are removed as well. So if I'm selling the property for 260,000 bucks and I pay my realtor commissions, I pay closing costs, right? That means realistically, I'm left with 244 grand, okay? 244 coming in. Can you guys see that? Yep, you can see that there. And I will flip this at some point, write it from left to right. I don't have that type of mental capacity to write stuff backwards. I would be so confused. I can only work on one thing at a time unless it's real estate, in which case some of this stuff is like the Matrix to me, okay? You think you're funny, do you? All right, so someone over here, because they see it flipped, they're telling me to write it backwards, which, yeah, they're tripping. All right, so the way that I made this offer, I would put 217 grand into it. That includes all my project fees plus lender fees approximately. So approximately 217 grand into it, but then taking out 244 from the sale, right? So after everybody's paid off, what's left is my profit. That's 27, 37. That's $27,000. Now for me, I have to project, in order for it to be a deal for me on paper, I have to project that I'm gonna make 10% of this resale number in profit. So 10% of this is 26 grand, right? 10% of 260 grand is how much I want to make in profit, right? If I did it like this, how I'm projecting, I would make 27 grand in profit. Now they were asking 175 for this house. I couldn't go up to 175. I have to stay disciplined in my numbers, all right? So, I know, I'm just talking trash to you. Growing organic life. So I would make here, right? I think my numbers are correct. I would be making 27 G's on this flip, right? Which is 1,000 bucks in projections more than my minimum profit, right? So this is why I said I hit singles and doubles, right? Because if I went over budget, or if this took longer, or something happened, or I sold it for less, I'd still be profitable. I'm not trying to flip houses to lose money, although I have before, okay? Now, I did not get this offer accepted, right? I did not. They said, hey, are you willing to go up to 175? Someone else is saying 175. People say that all the time, and I have to stick to my numbers, right? They're trying to get me to offer higher. When I'm selling houses and somebody's offering lower than I have the property listed for, I always have my agent say the same thing. Oh, there's somebody else coming in at 175. Are you sure you can't go up there? I said, dude, we cannot go up there. This house is beat up. It needs a little bit of everything. You know, we're putting 30 G's into it. So, you tell them if they have somebody higher than that, go ahead and do it. But I always have my agents tell people, look, if they don't work out and they try to negotiate with you after they already have it in contract, don't deal with that. Just come to me. We'll be here waiting. We're professional. We know what we're doing. It's numbers for us. We stand behind our offer. Just put us in backup, right? So I always put that in their ear. Hey, you don't have to negotiate with them. Just come to me after, right? So, that's what we said. And sometimes they'll say, oh, never mind. We want to go with you, which means they're bluffing the whole time. But in this case, I said, hey, you know what? We're going to take that 175. So I said, hey, well, we're in backup position, and I just keep on going, keep on trying to do this. How do you choose areas to buy the house? It's ready, fire, aim. I look at all different areas. Like, there's not a specific method to that madness. You can do it in your own backyard. You can do it in other places. I like ripple markets, which are about an hour out from big cities. Like, you look at San Francisco, I like about an hour out from San Francisco because you have commuters going back and forth. The property is a little bit more affordable, and that means you have more people that can potentially buy your home. It makes it easier to resell on the flip. Hopefully that helps. That's just my side note. this actually works with no money or credit. Absolutely. We went over that a couple days ago. I'm gonna try to make that archived for you guys. That's why these lender fees come in, right? We bring in private lenders to lend on the house. If for some reason we mess up or do something dumb, the lenders get to take over the house. They have collateral. So our credit isn't as much of a big deal as is the actual deal on paper that we're getting. The fact that they can foreclose and make their money, okay? So, so far you guys following me? Thumbs up if you're following me. I know it's easy on Instagram Live, Facebook Live. I don't know how easy it is, but just give me a thumbs up if you're following what I'm saying so far. Or a thumbs up if you like the Dodgers, especially you, LaForge. All right? Thumbs up. Okay, cool. All right, so I said no. So I'm like, okay, it's not a deal. Well, you know, we gave it our best shot. Let's start making more offers. The amount of money that I make in this business is directly correlated to how active I am making as many offers as possible, okay? If I'm not making offers, then I'm not getting properties, which means I'm not getting paid, right? So that's why it's almost a passive side hustle, but you have to make offers to get the process started. You have to pick up the phone and call people and create relationships. The beauty of technology is it makes those properties a lot easier to see, a lot easier to analyze, and it puts us in direct contact with lenders, with real estate agents, with wholesalers, with contractors very, very easily, right? A lot different than even 5 years ago when I first started, or 7 years ago when I first started. So things are really progressing right now, and it allows us to create those relationships. And a lot of times, you can maintain those relationships via text, right? Via email. I've coached a lot of people that have full-time jobs. I always recommend have another hustle, because it's all about multiple streams of income these days, right? The internet allows us to be able to do a lot of different things. You can text your agent back during the bathroom break at lunch, right? So at first though, when you're first blitzing lenders, I call it blitzing real estate agents, blitzing to try to get leads, blitzing to try to get lenders, blitzing to try to get contractors on your power team, picking up the phone is the best thing to do. And that's where a lot of people get scared. That's what stops a lot of people, especially at first, because they're like, I need to be perfect. I need to know this script perfectly. It's like, even if you think you know that script perfectly, you practice it for 3 weeks, you're gonna mess up on your first call. I still mess up on call. I mess up on Instagram Lives all the time. I think I probably messed up like 6 times already. You just gotta keep going through it, keep your composure, keep your confidence, and understand that it's not as bad as you think it is, okay? So, this property went to someone else at 175. About 10 days later, I got a call from my agent. They say, hey, you remember that property on, I'm not telling you where that property's at, but remember that property on blank avenue? I said, yeah, I remember it. Did it close? I didn't see that it closed yet. He said, no. They said that they're trying to negotiate down. It sounds like the deal's not going to happen. And because we told them that we would come in, you know, they want to know if we still want it. Because if we still want it, they're just going to cancel that contract and come to us. I said, dude, we want it. Right? And so they came to us. They canceled that contract out. They came to us. They didn't even put it back on the market. We just reserved our spot in line. They didn't have to do that. But because we told them, remember us, just in case shit hits the fan, they did. They came to us. I said, we cannot go up to 175 though. That's what they asked. So we got to stay at 170, and we have to have an inspection period, right? I always have like a 7-day or a 5-day or even like a 15-day inspection period, because I need to make sure that these numbers work. But I don't send my resources, right? I don't make those calls to send contractors to the house to give me quotes on everything until I know I have this thing under control. Or else I'm wasting time, or else I'm wasting people's time. And I feel like there's a lack of value for yourself if you're sending somebody to a property that you don't have control of, and you're showing a little bit of disrespect. Now, I don't think it really is, but I'm trying to make the best use of everybody's time. I'm trying to teach everybody a way that I want to be treated, because I like my time respected as well. So I'm only going to send contractors in if I know that we're moving on. I'm not sending contractors in order to make the offer, because who knows if you're going to get it, okay? So we put this bad boy under contract, and this was probably 2 weeks ago. It came back to us, or it was over the weekend, yeah, about 2 weeks ago. And so it came back. I'm like, okay, cool. Now it's time to actually like dot the I's and cross the T's. And so what I did was those first couple of days, I think it was over the weekend that it actually came back to us. So on the following Monday and Tuesday, I sent contractors to this house, okay? I also sent the information on the house to a few different lenders. I also called a few different real estate agents in that area, and I said, hey, I've got this property under contract. I'm a real estate investor. You know, I buy and sell properties in that area all the time. If you ever have a property that you think would be good for a flip, please consider me. By the way, I'm already doing this property. It's with someone else, right? And I always, I'm not going to go away from any agent that I'm working with, but please send me what you think I can resell this for. Send me these comps with this criteria. I have a script for that, okay? I just say the same thing. I call like 3 or 4 of them. So I put everything into action. It's all stuff I did from right here in this office. Okay, I didn't go on site, right? It's 400, 500, 600 miles away. But I called everybody. I had people ready to go just in case the property was coming. So when I called everybody, besides the real estate agents that I was checking with, when I called the contractors, when I called the lenders, they already had knowledge of who I was before. And even more importantly, I've already had either a 5 to 15 minute conversation with them already, because I called them, introduced myself, say, hey, I'm buying properties in this state, blah, 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 blah. If I have something, I'm going to send it to you. Do you mind like letting me know what email address you want it to go to, or what type of what structure you want me to send the details of the property to you on? And they love that, right? They're like, yeah, send it to me like this, or only send me these numbers, right? Whatever it is, I still send. I over communicate it, right? I send as many details as possible to show that I know what I'm doing. But when I do that, right? Once I have something under contract, I'm not desperate. I don't have that desperation, right? In the back, in my tone or in my mind, right? I'm coming to them as, hey, I've already talked to you, even if it was only for 5 minutes, so we don't need those formalities. And so, hey, I got that property. You asked me to send it in this format. I'm sending it to you in that format. Please take a look. Let me know what you think. Boom, right? So that way, instead of saying, hey, my name is Jake. Good to meet you. By the way, check out this property, just put it under contract. I already got that part out of the way, the nervous part, the awkward part, and now we're just straight talking business, okay? It helps. Just little things like that help. So put the contractors into the home, send it out to lenders, sent it out to contractors, and by midway through last week, what do you think happens? Anybody? Well, you probably don't know what happened, right? Because I haven't told you yet. Sorry, I feel so weird drinking. I have this weird thing about drinking stuff out of a straw. I always prefer to drink stuff out of a glass, but then I like these cold brews from Starbucks. They get me all jacked up. I don't know why I drink them out of a straw, but I do now. It's crazy. Anyway, so what happens when all this comes back? First thing, the first 2 lenders that went on that Monday came back with price points. One was at like $40,000, and one was at $38,000. I was like, oh, that's higher than 30 grand, and I was just $1,000 over on my projections on where my numbers were at. The third contractor came in at $36,000, or at 35 or 36, depending on a couple of variables. Okay, so we're about 5 grand over. So I was $5,000 under my minimum profit that I needed to project. Also, with all the numbers that came back, when other people are putting some of those numbers together, these real estate agents who have no skin in the game in this deal, right? It doesn't matter to them whether I close the deal or not. They're just giving me data. They're trying to look good. They're trying to be competitive. And so they gave me raw information. And these lenders also looked at it from their lens, which is a little bit different than mine, right? And they came back and said, look, this is probably worth 255. 250 to 260, yeah, but we feel comfortable at 255. And that was consistent from everybody, right? So it wasn't even me getting those numbers. I just put control of it by moving quickly. So once these numbers came in, right, this price was low, which cut into my projected profit, and these rehab costs, these renovations were high, right? So instead of projecting $27,000 in profit, instead, by just making those couple of corrections to my projections, and that rhymes. By the way, little known fact, I used to be a rapper, I was way tight, but by making the corrections to the projections, right, instead of projecting 27 grand, I was now projecting 17 grand, right? Because my resale number was off by 5 and my renovation cost number was off by 5, right? So that's under my 10% minimum projected profit. So this was no longer a deal for me. I was like, how did I get that wrong? But that's why I have an inspection period. Now, with this one, I knew that somebody else tried to negotiate them. And the reason they came to me, because I was in backup and I told them, hey, if they try to negotiate you, don't even worry about that, just come to us. Now, they also needed to close quickly, right? There was like a foreclosure that was coming up or whatever it was. So I said, listen, I told my agent, I didn't tell him this, right? I told my agent to tell them this. I said, listen, I'm embarrassed. We told you guys to come to us as backup. I can't do the deal. It's just too tight. I didn't expect some of these things to come through. All of my contractors were high like that. It wasn't just 1 or 2 like they all had the same feedback. They're all in that same range. And because this was so tight, I just couldn't do it. I had to stay disciplined. I will not go into that deal projecting to make 15, 16, 17 grand with this type of ARV, because what happens if we go over budget on that? What happens if we go a little bit longer than planned and my lender costs are higher? What happens if instead of 260, we sell it for 250? Or we sell it for 255 and they need closing cost help and I gotta put money in. That's a few different things can happen and we could break even. And all of a sudden, I didn't give myself enough padding. I've learned the hard way not to just go in there with real tight profits and just say, hey, you know what? It's gonna be the best house in the area, so let's just expect to sell for higher. No, I'm just basing it off of true numbers. And that's the beauty of this house flipping business. You can put something and lock it in under contract, and then during that inspection period, try to figure it out. Now, you should never go into a house expecting or with the mindset that, hey, I'm gonna negotiate him down. Like, please, promise me, put your right hand up. In Instagram, I know you think this is my left hand, but this is my right hand. Say, state your name. So I, Jake Light, promise to not try to go in and control houses in order to negotiate them down on purpose. You don't want to do that. You'll get a bad reputation in this business, okay? But sometimes you just got to say, look, I can't do the deal. And so I told my agent, I said, tell him we can't do the deal. We understand that you came to us, so if you have somebody else you want to go to get a higher number, please go to them. But let them know if they want me to stay in the deal, it'd have to be 10 grand lower. I'd need to be at 160. But we're not expecting that, but just letting you know, just in case, we have to be at 160. Guess what they came back and said? Hey, can you do 165? I said, no, I can't. Next morning, hey, they're sending you a new contract that says 160. I didn't even have to send a contract. They, on paper, negotiated against themselves. They said, just can you please close by next Friday? I said, I'm gonna do my best. It was like Wednesday or Thursday of 2 weeks ago. So, sent it to all my lenders, said, hey, we're a go. Can you move quick? Can you move quick? Made a decision on the lender. I made a decision on the contractor. I said, hey, get ready. We're closing this bad boy on Friday. Let's get going. So all the money was in for closing on the Thursday, right? Instead of 170, we're at 160. Instead of 30 grand, I picked the dude that was at $36,000. Sorry if you can't see that. And then my ARV was instead, it was 255, my resale projection, 255. So all these numbers obviously changed. My lending, the cost for the lender was going to be approximately the same at the end of the day. The closing costs and holding costs were going to be about the same. And I know this looks like chicken scratch at this point, especially you guys in my mentorship program. You know at the end of some of these lessons, it looks like a Picasso, but if you've been following me, then you probably understand where we're at. But now, the purchase is 160, the renovations is 136, and there's 2,500 in closing costs, 2,500 in holding costs, right? So what is that? 196, 201. Yeah, so we're at 201 now, okay? Still about $12,000 in lender's fees, so we're at 213 in total to make this happen. Okay? Approximately, okay? So all you math whizzes out there, please don't correct me in the DMs afterward, okay? Now on this side, on the resale, now we're at 255. And so 5% of 255, I think, is 12,750. So I'm just going to keep this rounded up to 1,300, right? 1,300 to pay real estate agents. Another 3 grand in closing costs. So 255 minus that 16 grand, that's what 239 is actually coming in. So now we are at a projected profit of $26,000. If everything works out perfectly. Obviously, if I get it done quicker, it's going to be more profit. If I sell it for higher, it's more profit. But if I sell it for less, I have some room, okay? If shit hits the fan, I have some wiggle room, right? And so now we're ready to move forward. So now does that make sense to everybody over here in Instagram land and to everyone over here in Facebook land? Absolutely. Give me a thumbs up if this makes sense. I know this is all over the place, but just let me know if this whole thing makes sense. We're going to leave it up for 24 hours so you can follow along and write everything out. And then also, if you go to Instagram, Facebook, facebook.com/JakeLightOfficial. Over here on this screen, everything is correct. So you can go to that, you can be able to see this replay, and it doesn't take it down to 24 hours, okay? So, we're at 26 grand. My lenders did a fire drill. I call this a fire drill. They rushed. Everybody got their money in. We're ready to go. Like, hey, they came down on price points, so we're willing to come and move quickly. I've already contacted the lenders ahead of time, so they were somewhat familiar with me, so we're ready to go. So the money's in escrow on Thursday. We're supposed to close on Friday. Well, Friday comes, and we get word, hey, the seller, they have a lender on their deal. It's called a mortgage, Bank of America or Wells Fargo or whatever, right? So their lender hasn't given the demand, the payoff demand, telling exactly how much they owe on the house. I'm like, oh, well, that happens sometimes, but it's a long weekend, right? It was just this past week. And Martin Luther King Day is on Monday, so everything's closed. Banks are closed, right? It's a holiday. I was at home hanging out with my son. So Tuesday comes. I'm like, okay, we're going to close this today. Tuesday comes. They're like, well, they said that they were going to have it to us this morning, and now nobody has it to us. Well, they're on the phone with escrow escrow's on the phone with it's called the servicer, the people doing the payoff demand for the lender. They're on the phone all freaking day, right? All day. We're supposed to have it by the end of the day. Well, Tuesday comes and goes. Then yesterday comes and goes. And then today, we still don't have it. All my lender's money's in escrow, right? And we still haven't closed on the deal, right? So this business is about decisions, right? Now, I could just let it go, which I don't have any control over it. But I, went ahead and went forward and put money in escrow. I told all these lenders, like, hey, hurry up, get it in. Please put everything in quickly so we can get it done, because they did their part, and they came through at 160, right? They dropped that price point down. So, dumb question. Let me finish this point real quick, right? So, today is Thursday. My lenders all had their money in last week on Thursday. We still haven't closed this deal. We're just sitting here waiting. Now, the deal is going to close, but word we're getting back is, there was like a foreclosure proceeding at some point. So there's like attorney's fees, and we just need to find out what the attorney's fees are. So they're waiting for some attorney to call them back. Who knows if the attorney understood that last week was when we're supposed to close on the deal. This happens, right? There's delays in closing all the time on both sides, when I'm buying and when I'm selling. It sucks, but we're problem solvers. So what I'm doing right now, and hopefully the seller is not on this live or on this live, but the seller is now saying, I haven't heard from the seller, but the seller is apparently, they're trying to call them and trying to figure out what's going on. So everybody's trying to call them. And I'm sitting here and I'm putting pressure on them. I call every day, or text or email or whatever it is. I'm like, dude, are we going to close this deal, or do I have to back out? Which I'm not going to back out. It's a good deal, right? Like 26 grand. Why would I back out of that? I have full control. Everything's there. The money's there. It's not my money, but it's my lender's money, which is like more important. Like, I got to respect that, right? Well, I think one of you is actually in this deal over here on the Facebook side. So what I said today, I said, listen, because I know the reason that they didn't want to go to somebody else when this didn't work for me is because they're on a specific time frame, and they're probably making money off of this. They just needed somebody to come in more than probably 120 grand. So they're trying to make money off of it. But look, I did my part. They pushed me to do my part. And now we're just sitting there in purgatory. And so I said, this is what I'm floating out. I said, look, we're going to back out unless you can reimburse me for me waiting now, because I've done my part, right? And so I'm actually hoping to get this for 155. Now, hopefully, that'll put pressure on them to ride the lender even more to try to get this to go through. And if it does, worst case scenario now is I've got this funded and we close at 160, which is a projected $26,000 profit. Best case scenario is we put this at 155, which would turn this into a $31,000 projected profit, right? So that's how the game's played. That's how it's over and over and over. Now, in my head, all this stuff is done really quickly. I actually have calculators for my mentorship group where you can just plug these numbers in and it'll tell you how much you're going to make. It actually says on the screen yes or no. It's taken me a long time to build that calculator. It's something that I built because I do this business so much. I hated all the scratch paper I was wasting. But this is how it's played, right? This is why I say, you can see the stuff in pictures and you don't have to be at the house. And that's why it's always polarizing, especially to contractors who are like, oh, you're not going to see that fire hazard at the house. It's like, I don't need to see that. If I get control of the contract, my contractor needs to see that, because my contract with the contractor says that they're going to make sure that everything is in good enough shape and it's going to pass every inspection. It says, hey, roofing is going to pass inspection, windows are going to pass inspection, plumbing is going to pass inspection, flooring is going to pass inspection, electrical, whatever it's called, right? So I don't need to see the house. My contractors do, and they need to give me bids. And if they come in and I tell them, here's everything I need done, and they come in and they say it's 38, 36 grand, and I projected 30, that just means I'm close, but it's not a deal, right? I could make money, but I don't want anybody to get into something and potentially lose, because you never know what's going to happen once you get in there. And so it's just a matter of putting puzzle pieces together. But this right here is how I'm accidentally, I didn't have the intent to buy this house at 160. I was trying to back out. I knew that they were in a tough spot. I didn't want to have a bad reputation by negotiating them after we had something in contract, because that's the sole reason why I had it. They moved on to me instead of the buyers that they were previously working with. So that's the way the game is played. And fortunately, I won that battle, right? The war goes on, and I just do it over and over and over again, right? So depending on who you have on your power team, right? You have real estate agents that are negotiating on your behalf, or you have wholesalers sending you leads. You have contractors that go and correct numbers for you. You have lenders that correct numbers for you, because if you do something dumb, or if I do something dumb, my lender has to take the house. So they're looking at that property and that project like it's their own house. So you have so much like checks and balances, and so many extra sets of eyes on things. That's why I say, in my marketing, it's polarizing on purpose. I'm trying to get your attention, but that's why I say, dude, the game is different than you may think. It's different than it was 10 years ago, and that's why the dinosaurs, the quote-unquote dinosaurs, are losing, because they think they need to go to the house and get everything right at first. And while they're waiting to the weekend, and so they can go in there and look at every single thing, by the time the weekend comes, I already have this under contract, and I've already renegotiated the terms, and my people are coordinating to put their money into the escrow account to close it, right? It's a different game, and it's a very unique time frame right now, because so many things are changing. But this is an industry that historically the old money has been in it, where they're doing things from the more classical, traditional way. Now new money is coming in, and new investors are coming in, right? Where you don't necessarily have to have the money yourself. These lenders are out there putting money into workhorses like me and you to be able to come and flip these houses. We're still able to make good profit with $0 out of our own pocket, and we're controlling things using technology. So it's a pretty cool thing. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Hopefully you learned something from that today, because I get pumped up on this. This is why I do a mentorship group, because this is my thing, okay? All right, dumb question. Is there a rule of thumb in terms of range of ROI you want to typically be in, or one in which the lender will be willing to finance? I just joined the live, by the way. Good question. It's not a dumb question. No such thing as a dumb question in this game. Sorry, I'm just making sure to keep everything accurate here. So I prefer, after everything's said and done, after everybody's paid off, I prefer to make a minimum of 10% of the resale value of the home, the projected resale. It's called the ARV. It's called after repair value. It's the most important number that we have, and I know this is all chicken scratched up, but what you can potentially sell it for in the future is we're looking at it the same way that a bank is going to send an appraiser to look at it, because there's a certain amount that a bank won't let a new buyer buy the house for, or they'll have to come out with their own cash, right? Like, for example, what I mean by that, if you're getting an FHA loan, most people have heard of an FHA loan. It's a first-time home buyer, federally backed loan, okay? If you're gonna buy a house for $300,000, with an FHA loan, I think you only have to put 3.5% down. So it's good for first-time home buyers, because you don't have to put in, I think 3.5% of 300 grand. What is that, like 10 grand? They have to put 10 grand down payment and a couple more costs, like they have to pay for an inspection and an appraisal and things like that. If for some reason, right, so they put it under contract, they have to pay for the appraisal. It's a bank appraisal, but the buyer has to pay for it. Let's say they only have 12, 13, 14, 15 grand in their bank account, but they make enough money to be able to make a payment for a mortgage and things like that. If the bank comes in and says, you know what, you ran those numbers wrong, this contract is a little bit too high, we think it's only worth $280,000, what that's saying is that the bank will only give them a loan for 96.5% of 280 grand rather than 96.5% of 300 grand. So they have to come up with the 3.5% of the contract price, or of the appraised value, plus that difference. So if it was at 300 grand, you got a first-time home buyer that only has 15 grand in the bank, and if the property appraises low, usually that buyer can't cover the difference to be able to come up and pay the contractual price, right? And so if we're stuck in a situation like that, where our comps are off, or we're stretching it a lot, we could very well lose money, especially if we went over budget. I mean, a $20,000 difference instead of 26 grand, that's at 6 grand. Now, if I was to do it the way that it initially was, right? If we were projecting to make 17 or wherever that was at, a $20,000 swing makes it so I'm losing 5 grand. I'm not in this business to lose 5 grand. If you're interested in this business, you're probably not in the business to lose 5 grand either. So that's the reason why I have this $26,000, 10% of the resale number as my minimum projected profit, right? Any other questions? I know you got more for me, you guys. Come on. Dodgers picked up a good player today, by the way, for anyone that likes baseball. All right, cool. Got it. Well, you guys, it's been wonderful. It's been great. If you have any questions, send me a DM. I have a Q&A on my Instagram stories right now, too. On Facebook, you'll have to send me a private message, but Instagram stories, I have the Q&A thing. Go ahead and ask me a question. I'll try to get to it in the next 24 hours before it comes down. But I appreciate this, right? This is fun. It allows me to do what I love. Allows everybody to learn. This game is different. If you've ever been interested in this game, in this business, like, don't feel like because you don't have, $30,000 saved up or you don't have enough to buy a house that you can't get in. If you're willing to work, right? You can't do it and just sit on the couch, but if you're willing to put in work, you're willing to grind, you can do this, right? When I started, I was in a very bad position with my back against the wall, and I was able to do this quite a bit, right? I've been able to do a lot of these properties. And don't get me wrong, I've made some dumb choices. I've lost money. I didn't know how to handle money when I first made it. But I've learned, and every time I've lost that money, I've been able to stack it right back up using this exact process, okay? It's safe. What's up, Nadia? Haha, long time. So I think you can only have one FHA loan at a time. Split on the profit, it depends, everything's negotiable. If you have a lender like Nadia here, she's gonna try to take all my profit. No, it's usually, it's negotiable. If they're providing the money, sometimes they want an equity share, sometimes they want an annual interest return, sometimes they want monthly payments, sometimes they're willing to accrue it and defer it until you resell it, and sometimes they'll just want a straight up percentage on their money. They'll say, look, I'm giving you 40 grand, I want 20% of that 40 grand, whether you sell it in 3 months or 12 months, right? I just want 20% straight, so I want 8 grand, regardless of when you pay me back. So it's always negotiable, everything's negotiable in this business, all right? And sorry, Nadia, I didn't mean to say that. I hope you're having a Cosmo out there in New York. Staying warm out there, okay? All right, so you guys, it's been wonderful. God bless, thank you so much. We're thinking about opening the mentorship group up again shortly. I'm not sure. We want to do it right, and I'm focusing on the current group of students. They're doing really, really well, though, which is why I think it's important to open it back up. So there's a link to the wait list on my profile. Over here, I will put a link to the wait list. And you guys, it's been wonderful. God bless. I appreciate everything. And we'll talk to you soon. Facebook, we'll see you soon. And Instagram. What's the best and worst rate you've ever gotten from a hard money lender? It's never usually more than like 12% annual. I think my first deal, somebody charged me 15% annual. Usually it's between 8 and 12% annual. Yeah, hey, so over here, Facebook's done, but over here I do have a wait list for my group, theflipsecrets.com/mentor. It'll just give you an email address. Just send an email and you get on that list, because if we open it up, I don't know what the price point's going to be yet. I'm sure we'll figure that out soon. Points up front, usually anywhere between 1 and 5 points up front. And that's percentage of the loan amount for the fee. But yeah, hey, if you're interested, go to theflipsecrets.com/mentor, link in my bio, send me an email, we'll add you to the list, we'll let you know in advance before we put it out to the public. Probably, the last time we did that, and we did like the pre-opening thing, we'll do something like send you a couple t-shirts or something too. So anyway, you guys, it's been wonderful. DM me with questions. We'll talk to you soon. Take care. God bless.